KZMB All Zombie Radio.
Hey, what's up? Might be lagging. I'm not really sure. Or that was a giant millennial pause. Welcome to a new show called Slay by Slay. It's a little lame, but it's what we're gonna go with. Um, so normally I would be joined by my co-host on shows such as these. I have a multitude of co-hosts, but normally Takeerah or at Connie Dixon for Life joins me on streams like this, and we did agree to do this Buffy coverage together. However, she has some exciting stuff happening in her family, and so she is currently helping her son move. There's a lot going on. So we're just going to give her time and space to work on that, and she'll be back hopefully next week for found coverage, but we'll just have to see what happens. For a brand new look at a new show. Don't worry, Finding Found will come back again next week to cover, I don't know, 19th, 20th episode of Found. I'm not really sure. But in the meantime, we'll give you a little taste of something we've talked about working on after Found is over, which will be called Slay by Slay, a Buffy verse show, I guess. I don't know. We're figuring it out. Give me time. Anyway, I'm going to cover the very first episode of Buffy, the very first episode of the first season entitled Welcome to the Hellmouth. I am trying to pull up information, but just like never on a wiki page. You know what I mean? It can never be on a wiki page because wiki pages just wreck my computer. They have so many ads. Anyway, so Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Also, I have a hard out at like 8, guys. So sorry, you're not gonna see me here for very long. I would like to say housekeeping wise, Finding Found, we had like a little bit of an error with it last week. Um the stream was stopped by YouTube. And when I went back, they were like, you have a copyright strike. And I was like, no, I followed your rules. Took their little, you have to take like a training when that happens. So I did the training and I appealed because according to their rules, it wasn't an issue. However, they reviewed it and they determined it was still an issue. So I think it was just because of the size of like the screen share. When the screen share was smaller, we didn't run into an issue. When it was bigger, we did, which makes sense. Fair. So as a result, part 1 of last week's episode is gone permanently. I can't upload it again. So that is a shame that that's gone, but it's okay. And the copyright strike was removed. They determined that I actually hadn't done anything really that wrong, which was a little bit weird, but so they removed the copyright strike off my channel, which is great and saves us heartache and some issues later, but the video will not be allowed back up. So that is gone permanently. So I'm sorry if you tried to tune in and you only got part 2. I apologize. Out of my control. Out of my control. Anyway, let's move on to Buffy the Vampire Slayer's first episode, Welcome to the Hellmouth. Buffy, as some of you may know, I don't know, because I don't know how relevant this is anymore. I watched the show throughout middle school and high school. I loved it. I was very passionate about the show. This was probably my first real pop culture obsession other than the band Nirvana, because I got weirdly into Nirvana when I was 13. This was probably one of my first pop culture obsessions. I was over the moon, like in love with this series. I watch it now and I do realize that like it's very teenagery, which makes sense, is why it was for me at that age. And so there are some things that I'm like, that's stupid or that's lame now that I'm a full grown adult with a fully developed frontal cortex. But at the time, loved it, thought it was everything. So yeah, we're going to talk about this. It was based off of I shouldn't say it's based off of a movie. Joss Whedon wrote both a movie, like the script for a movie, and then also was able to then option it into a show after the fact. Um, the movie was kind of a cult classic. Honestly, probably not as viewed as the show, I would guess. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not. Maybe I just made that up. But the movie starred Kirsty Swanson, Luke Perry is in it, Paul Rubens is in it, otherwise known as Pee Wee Herman. David Arquette is in it. I'm sorry, I'm purely going off of memory because I did not watch it. Donald Sutherland is in it. It's got a ton of people in it. It's great. It's great. It was cheesy. It was very 90s. I loved it. It does have a novelization that kind of segues into, or like explains a little bit more about the like from the movie to the show. That is a little bit hard to understand. In the movie, Buffy is a senior. She is going to her senior prom. She burns down the gym. The burning down of the gym is fully mentioned in the show, but she is now a sophomore. So that's a little hard to understand, but they had to age her down in order for this to like be a show that could last for a couple seasons. So that's where that comes from. This episode was written by the series creator and the executive producer, Joss Whedon. You may be familiar with that name. Hey, Durga. That's right. We're talking Buffy, baby. You may know that name. Joss Whedon has been around for a number of years. He has worked on a number of properties, including Roseanne. He has also created and had a lot of shows. So he had Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Angel, which is a spinoff of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He had a sci-fi Western show called Firefly that was canceled after one season. That is absolutely phenomenal. If you haven't seen it already, you should definitely watch it. He had another sci-fi series entitled Dollhouse, which is severely underrated. Loved Dollhouse. It's so good. And that actually had a comic book continuation, I believe, after that was canceled. Buffy was also ended after 7 seasons. Welcome to Sunnydale. Yeah. Buffy ended after 7 seasons. Angel ended after 5. These are all just random facts that I have stored in my head. Finally, all of this random information that I have about Buffy and Joss Whedon's Buffyverse is finally coming into play for me. It's finally coming up, Bridget. So, um, so, okay. So Buffy, Angel, Firefly, Dollhouse. He also wrote the movie Cabin in the Woods, which is phenomenal. It was shelved for a number of years, so it came out like at a later date, but it was really great. And then he also wrote Dr. Horrible Sing Along Blog, which was a web series that I watched live as it released, starring Neil Patrick Harris and Nathan Fillion. All phenomenal properties. I was going to say Buffy ended after 7 seasons, does have a comic book continuation. Angel ended after 5 seasons, does have a comic book continuation. Dollhouse ended after 2 seasons, if I'm not mistaken. That one I'm not as familiar with. Comic book continuation, I believe. Firefly ended after 1 season. Comic book continuation there also. Joss Whedon is very invested in the comic book continuation. He stated that he really liked doing it, especially after his time with Buffy, because there's not as much budgetary constraints. You can draw a dragon in a comic book and not worry about how you're going to make that work physically or with computer effects in a live action television show. There was discussion and a pilot created for a Buffy the Vampire Slayer cartoon series. I've watched the little clips that are available for it. It was not picked up. I will mention that this episode, this is called Welcome to Hellmouth. You'll notice it's not called Pilot, which is often what is written on, or what like normal pilots are entitled. The pilot for Buffy the Vampire Slayer actually had a different actress playing Willow Rosenberg. And so It wasn't Allison Hannigan. I cannot remember. I will try to find the name of the person. And we can talk about that in a little bit. But the original pilot is not actually what ended up airing on TV because they refilmed it with Allison Hannigan as Willow Rosenberg. All right, so this originally aired on the WB. That's right. This show was originally on the WB. You may know it as being on UPN. That, yep, because it ended on UPN. Little bit of drama there mid show where it was dropped from WB and picked up by UPN, which is kind of unheard of at the time. That like was not a thing, and was a really big deal that happened. It did have a 2-hour premiere, including the following episode 2, which is entitled The Harvest. That's why we get a to be continued at the end of this episode. So the episode was written by Joss Whedon, the creator, and then it was directed by a man named Charles Martin Smith. I mentioned a lot of things that Joss Whedon did that I know him for. He also has done some other stuff. He did one of the Avengers movies. And he said that the pressure of trying to please everyone when it came to beloved comic book characters was too much, and he actually would prefer never to do it again. So that happened. He also did a black and white version remake of Much Ado About Nothing, which I definitely went and saw in theaters. And I remember really enjoying it. Although it was kind of like a date type situation ish. I was in love with the guy that I went to see it with. He probably knew. He was not in love with me, but that was as close to a date as I got with him. Durga says my crush on Anthony Stewart Head is still strong. He was so handsome in Merlin. My husband and I actually just watched, like, we've just been watching a little bit of Merlin. Anthony Stewart Head is phenomenal. I love him. There were rumblings of a Ripper television show at one point that goes into more about his character. We'll get, you know what? I'm sorry. I digress. I'm getting too excited. I have too many things to tell you, but we will do this nice and slow over time. Joss is top tier. I'm a big Whedon fan, have been for a number of years. Mainly because of Buffy though, honestly, if I'm being honest. All right, Charles Martin Smith. I just wanted to see like what has he worked on, okay? So he was an actor. He was in American Graffiti that was done by George Lucas as Terry the Toad Fields. He starred with Ron Howard in the Spikes Gang. He auditioned for the role of Luke Skywalker, which is kind of crazy to consider. He played one of Buddy Holly's bandmates in the Buddy Holly story. He was a race car driver in Herbie, if anybody remembers that back in the day. He was in The Untouchables. He was in The Hotspot, Deep Cover, Speechless, I Love Trouble, Perfect Alibi. He's been in a ton of stuff. In terms of directing, that's really what I wanted to take a look at. Oof. Okay. Predominantly, it's about his acting career. All right, let's see what we got for directing. All right. Okay, so his first film as director was the camp horror story Trick or Treat. That's 1986's Trick or Treat. He directed and acted in 50/50. Okay, he did some TV series directing. That's what I wanted to get to. So he was a director for a TV series called Space Above and Beyond, which was out in 1995. And then he did this episode of Buffy. And then he directed Air Bud. And that's wild. And 2 miniseries for Hallmark Entertainment, Roughing It, which was like a Mark Twain thing, and Icon, which starred Patrick Swayze. He also directed numerous episodes of a TV series called Da Vinci's Inquest, which is Canadian. And then he wrote and executive produced The Clinic, which was a film for Animal Planet. So that's just a little summary of Charles Martin Smith. I swear to you, if you could, let me just screen share for a second. I want you to see his picture because you're going to go, I know him. I know him. So familiar looking. Am I right? Look at him. There we go. Good lord, that took forever. There he is. Looks super familiar to me. He's been in a lot of stuff. He's now 71, if you can actually believe that. I feel so old. We're going through this. Yeah, tons of stuff, tons of acting credit. And was active from 72 to basically current to 2020. Yeah, he was in an episode of Psych. He was in episodes of our favorite shows. Look at this: Leverage, Fringe, Psych, Law and Order SVU, Ally McBeal, The X Files, Outer Limits. This is amazing. Tales from the Crypt. This is great. Okay, Twilight Zone. Love it. I love this. All right. So that is him. The director of our first episode here. Okay, so in terms of ratings, we often talk about that. This received a Nielsen rating, so this was back in the day of Nielsen ratings. I'm sure they still exist. It's just weird. Like, it used to be a box that you had in your house. Of 3.4 upon its original airing, and received a ton of positive review from critics. So it picks up technically where the film left off. Again, there's the weird. She was a senior in the movie. She's a sophomore here, but she moves with her mom. Again, none of the same actors either. Everybody was recast. The fact that this was successful with a recast is crazy, but the film hadn't done as well as people, I think, kind of thought it would. So I think that's why it led to being successful in this way. She moves to Sunnydale, California from LA, and she is there to restart her life. She wants to just be successful in school. Her mom wants her to be successful in school and doesn't want her to get kicked out, but she is called to be the Slayer. And so it's not going to work out that way. Let's start off with our cast of characters, shall we? Okay. So Sarah Michelle Gellar will be playing Buffy Summers, our main character. Her mother, Joyce, is Christine Sutherland, no relation to Donald Sutherland, just a weird coincidence. Her principal, Bob Flutie, who we won't see a ton of, is played by Ken Lerner. Xander Harris is played by Nicholas Brendan. I am going to mention something really quickly, and then I'm going to back off from it. We're not going to talk about it again in this episode. Nicholas Brendan, there have been some accusations about him in recent years in terms of domestic violence. I have not looked into it a ton. The only thing I know about his personal life is that he kind of does like art and like, kind of like actor workshops now. And that he had a stutter when he was younger, and that acting actually helped him to kind of develop out of that. I am not going to talk anything else about that. If you want to do research, please do. I've only heard rumblings. I don't know enough about it to really discuss it right now, so I don't really feel comfortable with that, but we're just going to move on. Just know that that's out there in the ether. Cordelia Chase, who is our like cool cheerleader girl, played by Charisma Carpenter. Willow Rosenberg, played by Allison Hannigan. I have to say, Allison Hannigan knows how to pick a role. That girl must have like the world's best agent, is all I have to say about that. She got this role. Okay. She plays Willow Rosenberg in a cult classic television series that like is super influential in, I'll get to that in a second, Durga. Super influential in the supernatural television realm. She then proceeds to play Flute Girl in American Pie. And then she also nails the role of Lily Erickson in How I Met Your Mother. So this girl has had some really great roles. Well known. And then the librarian is Rupert Giles, or Mr. Giles, who is played by Anthony Stewart. Head is how he was going at the time, but Anthony Head is often how he's referred to now. He is an English actor and also a singer. Um, and you'll notice a little spotlight presentation of a character that we don't see a ton of, unfortunately, but Jesse McNally is in the first episode, and he is played by Eric Balfour of just at really 90s fame, honestly. If you know, you know. We also meet Angel in this episode very briefly, played by David Boreanaz, a stone cold stunner of a person, honestly. You may have also recognized the vampire girl who was Darla, is her name. She was played by Julie Benz, who you might know from Dexter if you're into that kind of thing. Um, the master, you also see very briefly. He is played by Mark Metcalf, who is best known for one of his roles in what was he in? I'm gonna say it, and it's just wild. I just need you to know. This is how I remember him. He was in Animal House as Doug Niedermeyer. That's like what he's most well known for. I love that I know him as Mark Metcalf from playing the Master in Buffy. I also waited on him once. Just a fun fact about me. I've been a wait. I am no longer a waitress. I was a waitress for about 12 years of my life, and I worked at a 24-hour diner in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And Mark Metcalf came in, and I waited on him, which was just a cool experience. Didn't know it was him till after, from only seeing him in special effects makeup. All right. Luke is another character that we see in this episode, played by Brian Earl Thompson. Brian Earl Thompson is also kind of another that guy. He was in Star Trek Next Generation. He was in Terminator. He was in Fright Night Part 2. He was in Alien Nation. He was in Nightwish. He was in Lionheart. He was in Star Trek Generations. He was in Dragonheart. He was in Mortal Kombat Annihilation. He was in Joe Dirt. He was in let's see, anything else that I can think of or see? TV shows: Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, The X-Files, Hercules Legendary Journey, Star Trek Deep Space Nine again, um NYPD Blue, Charmed. He kind of just has like a recognizable face and voice. His voice is phenomenal. And so that is pretty much it for our cast in this first episode. All right, we take a break really briefly and talk on what Durga has to say. Side note, did you see Shanola Hampton in The View promoting Found? That's a good sign, in my opinion. Plus, the showrunner states they have presented the premise for season 3 and are very optimistic. It would be unusual to be doing a press circuit and not get renewed. However, it has happened before, but it would be weird. So maybe that means that Found will be renewed and we can continue on. But you know what? We also got a lot of Buffy to cover and many other things that we could cover. So it's okay. I'm okay either way. We can do whatever we want. Okay, so all right, in terms of this episode, I just kind of want to go through the premise. And then we'll talk about like how this was received. Okay. We'll talk about reception, but first I kind of want to talk about the premise of this. So Buffy, ready to start her life over, right? She wants to start her life over. She shows up in Sunnydale, California. She is ready to start her new school. And you can see in the night, she's having a lot of nightmares. We come to know later that these are premonitions, or I don't want to give away too much. We're just gonna leave it there. Just know that the dreams are a big key part of being a Slayer and Slayer life. Okay. And so she's just kind of ready to start her life over. Her mother's also very ready for that and wants her to be successful. She just asks that she doesn't burn down another school building because, like, how embarrassing for her. And so Buffy starts school. She meets a couple different people. Xander's very clearly into her. He falls off his skateboard because he's just so enamored with how beautiful she is. Willow is a really smart girl who does a lot of tutoring. So Buffy meets her and thinks like, oh, this is how I can ensure that I'm going to get good grades and not get expelled. Bob Flutie meets with her and is like, hey, we're going to take your record and we're going to rip it up. But then he starts to read what's on the record and he staples it and tapes it back together, which is incredible. And I absolutely love that scene. It's so good because it's like this happy feely, like in a hippy dippy principal who's like, I'm going to give you a chance. And then he's like, oh, you burned down a building? Never mind. I take it back, actually. Um, so I love that. It's just like it's just fun. Oh no, we're definitely spoiling things. We're definitely spoiling things. I just don't want to spoil a ton of stuff further in because I know that people are going to be watching this along with us. I know Indy had said she'd never watched the show. So I just kind of want to like, I don't want to get too far into like some of the lore that comes way later. We're trying to stick to season 1 lore right now instead of like bringing in crazy stuff. Buffy was insanely hot. Sarah Michelle Gellar was incredibly attractive. Up to this point, she was, I believe she was most well known for soap opera work. She was like a child actor in soap operas. I don't know which one. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Young and the Restless, maybe? I feel like it might have been the Young and the Restless. And so that's what she was most well known for. And so this made her career though, is like she became Buffy. I I mean, I hate it for her. She was typecast kind of after this, but she became Buffy after this. She's done other things. She's had other TV shows. Don't get me wrong. She's done movies. She was extremely well known in her role in Cruel Intentions in the 90s. But Buffy was kind of her iconic part. And so yeah, that's what people know her the best for. All right. So at the very beginning of the episode, we get kind of like a little teaser. It's like a teaser for something that's happening outside of Buffy's story. And it is, I mean, it connects, but it's like it's outside of her direct storyline as of the beginning of the episode. You see Darla with a guy and they broke into the high school, and it's a very subverted expectation situation. This is unfortunately, I mean, it's cool, but unfortunately, this has become a trope. By the time this was like really unexpected that the girl was actually the bad guy in this situation. So she's actually a vampire. She attacks the guy. You think it's going to be opposite. You think the guy is going to get her. It was all my children. Thank you, Durga. And so yeah, it's just kind of subverted expectations. It's like a really cool little thing. It's a trope now, but at the time, this was unconventional. And so that part is really cool. This became, when people talk about there not being examples of strong women in media, I'm like, this has been around for a long time. Okay. Just because you didn't watch it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Buffy is one of the strongest people, as you will see over the 7 seasons of this series. She's incredibly strong. She's only like 15, 16 years old, and she's had to take on the weight of the world of being called to a supernatural position. In which she is the key to life and good triumphing over evil. This is a great example of strong women in media, and it did well for that reason. This is very much a product of the time. The 90s we were really pushing for girl power. The Spice Girls were a thing. We were all giving peace signs and yelling girl power, and wearing smiley face is on everything, and a lot of metallics. And and this was a great example, but a super product of its time, and I really, really love it. Yes, thank you, Durga. That is why we love her, because she was such a strong woman in media. And I think some people still believe that that's not a thing, and it has been for a long time. And there are examples. Maybe you just have to look for them, and maybe that's not fair. But Buffy was a very successful show. 7 seasons is nothing to turn your nose up at. Um, being dropped from one network and picked up from another is nothing to turn your nose up at. This is a big deal. This was a really big deal. Durga, I love that. Buffy is who we all wanted to be, beautiful, special, and a badass. 100%. If I connected to any character in media as a teenager, it was Buffy Summers. Why? I don't, because we all have main character syndrome. I don't know. Was I Buffy? No. Was I more like Willow Rosenberg? 100% yes. Although I did not bag an Oz. I'm not going to talk about that. Beyond saying that, you'll find out eventually. Okay, so all right, I did. Okay, so I did want to just kind of discuss, like, obviously Buffy meets Giles. Giles is going to be her watcher. A watcher is, as she says, someone who watches. A watcher is, it's okay. So Buffy had a watcher in the movie. He was played by Donald Sutherland. His name is like Merrick, I think. Um, Buffy is the Slayer. The Slayer is like a once a generation thing. You'll find out more about it as we go. Um, Buffy, like, being a Slayer meant that you were to protect the earth from vampires and demons. It's not just vampires. In the movie it was just vampires, but it moves into demon territory in the television series as well. And random other supernatural kind of occurrences. Um I'm like losing my train of thought because I have so many different places I want to go. See, I should have taken notes. I should have taken notes before I did this, and I did not. Um okay. Hold on one second. I'm just gonna look up something. Okay. Really quickly. Okay. That's so creepy. Stop. Everyone, my husband. Trap, stop. Normally I have a blanket blocking the back of that shelf, so that doesn't happen, but it's in the wash. Okay. Yes, Jermaine. Found is taking a break this week. It'll be back next week. So we'll be doing Finding Found next week. Durga, that is correct. Giles was more than a watcher. He was wisdom and guidance in action. He goes above and beyond as a watcher. Again, I'm gonna leave that there because I don't want to get too far into territory that's in further seasons. So we're just gonna kind of lay off. But a watcher is essentially someone who is assigned to the Slayer. They are there to train the Slayer in regards to physical training, in regards to also mental acuity and training. Essentially they are equipped with a ton of knowledge about fighting, different types of demons, different vampires, and then they also tend to have a large collection of books and other data to pull from. And now they train a ton of watchers, but only one watcher gets called up to like be with a specific Slayer. So Rupert Giles is called up into action and has to move to Sunnydale. They claim that he was a curator at a British museum or the British Museum prior. I don't know how true that is. But he ends up being Buffy's watcher, and he's a very beloved character. He is a witty, funny, just a great example of a safe, handsome older gentleman, kind of playing the father figure to Buffy. Because as you noticed, she only moved with her mother. So she meets Giles. He is like, here's this giant vampire book. She's like, I don't want that. um, and eventually he does end up kind of taking her on and saying like, hey, you have to do this job. I know you don't want to do this job anymore. It's hard. You're 16, you're 15, 16, you want to be a teenage girl, you want to date boys, you want to worry about what you're wearing to school. You don't want to worry about whether or not the balance of good versus evil hangs in your hands. So she wants just regular problems. And she states that in this episode. He's able to kind of convince her, like, hey, there's something going on. There's a big evil coming. Something's up. And I'm going to need your help. And you're here for a reason at this time. And we'll learn more about the characters that kind of come into play, but the master is a evil, very, very evil, very old vampire. And he's got a crew of vampires that he's kind of building under the town. Darla is a part of that. Luke is a part of that. And they are able to there's some rando one that's with them that dies at the end of the episode. Buffy stakes him, but they are able to grab Jesse and Willow and kind of trap them in a mausoleum. Buffy shows up. She essentially saves the day, but her life is left hanging in the balance, and we don't find out more until the next episode. It's a great first episode. It catches your interest. It's fun. It's funny. Like I said, it's very much a product of its time. So it's very 90s, lots of 90s references, but it's great. And I think even though there are tons of 90s references, to me it still stands up. I still enjoy it. Maybe I'm a little too nostalgic for it, but let me know what you think in the comments. There are a lot of pop culture references in and throughout Buffy. It's very much in the styling of Joss Whedon. He loves a good pop culture reference. And so we see a lot of those in this first episode. And so I just want to kind of go through those pop culture references for you. Okay. So we have Buffy references. I'm sorry, Xander references things like the Human Torch. There's just like references to things. Vamp nail polish. Vamp nail polish. If you don't know what vamp nail polish is, I would argue it's never been out. One. Look it up. It's great, and I would wear it now. Um, I've got no problem with vamp nail polish. All right, let's see. Buffy discusses like hairstyle. She references like Farrah Fawcett, Gidget. Um, uh, let me see. Teacher in the episode discusses the Black Death plague. So she talks about the Black Death. She talks about how it was about the first kind of example. It was a good example of germ warfare. Absolutely, it seems like no one in her class is listening to her at all. Cordelia asks a little questionnaire of Buffy to see if she's cool enough to hang with her. And so she asks her about the vamp nail polish. She asks her about James Spader, which Buffy says James Spader needs to call her, which I don't know if James Spader was a total babe in the 80s. I don't know if at this point he was still a total babe. As he's aged, he's got, now he's like looking like Robert California from The Office, and I am still interested. I don't know why. And then they also reference John Tesh. So they refer to John Tesh as the devil. John Tesh was an American musician and radio and television presenter. He's won 6 Emmys and has 4 gold albums, 2 Grammy nominations, and an Associated Press award for investigative journalism. James Spader was still a baby, got old overnight. For real. Because all of a sudden we saw him again and you're like, ugh, jump scare. I will mention that Tesh has been inducted to the North Carolina Music Hall of Fame, which is just weird. He's known for the genres including pop, contemporary worship, and 20th century classical music. He was around. Did I care? No, I didn't. Why is he the devil? I literally have no idea. I have zero idea as to what that reference is to. He did have a radio show called the John Tesh Show. That might have kind of been like maybe in this era. So, nope, that was in 2000 maybe. John Tesh's main rival was Delilah, though, and I love Delilah, and for that reason alone, I could be anti John Tesh. So, Frank, please stop. Um, all right. So, I'm trying to see if there's anything else to bring up really in this first episode. Let's see. All right, let's read some more information about this. Okay. So, we'll talk about the background. This is on Wikipedia, so I'm just going to read some stuff on here. Call me unoriginal, but I just want to make sure that we're covering all the basics. I've tried to go through things that I already know, and we'll talk about some other stuff. Supernova was the last time James Spader was good looking. After that, I don't know what happened. I'm still into him though. Anyway, um, okay, so all right. Writer Joss Whedon says that Rhonda, the immortal waitress, was really the first incarnation of the Buffy concept. Just the idea of some woman who seems to be completely insignificant who turns out to be extraordinary. This early unproduced idea evolved into Buffy, an inversion of the Hollywood formula of the little blonde girl who goes into a dark alley and gets killed in every horror movie. He wanted to subvert that idea and create someone who was a hero, which we talked about. That's like from the very first scene. Subversion of expectations is a thing for Whedon. He explained, quote, the very first mission statement of the show was the joy of female power, having it, using it, and sharing it. The idea was first visited through Whedon's script for the 1992 movie Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which featured, as we know, Christy Swanson. The director, Fran Rubel, I'm going to mispronounce the last name, Kazooie? No, Kazooie is nowhere near, Kuzu, saw it as a pop culture comedy about what people think about vampires. But Whedon disagreed. I had written this scary film about an empowered woman, and they turned it into a broad comedy. It was crushing. Several years later, Gail Berman, a Fox executive, approached Whedon to develop his Buffy concept into a television series. Whedon explained that they said, do you want to do a show? And I thought, high school as a horror movie. And so the metaphor became the central concept behind Buffy, and that's how I sold it. Supernatural elements in the series stood as metaphors for personal anxieties associated with adolescence and a young adulthood. Early in its development, the series was going to simply be titled Slayer, and Whedon went on to write and partly fund a 25-minute non-broadcast pilot. This is what I've seen, that was shown to networks and eventually sold to the WB network. Buffy the Vampire Slayer first aired on March 10th, 1997 as a mid-season replacement, which is why it has such a short first season, for the show Savannah on the WB network, and played a key role in the growth of Warner Brothers television network in its early years. Whedon has declared in June of 2003, wow, that the non-broadcast pilot would not be included with DVDs of the series, while there is strength in these bones, stating that it sucks on ass. It's not super great. It's not super, as someone who's seen it, it's not super great. I think you can find it on YouTube. It's out there. You can find it. Okay, so exciting musical context of the show. So the show features a lot of live bands, which was, again, product of the time. Charmed also did this, which aired in like late 90s into the early 2000s as well. You place the series surrounded at kind of like one of the sets will be a music venue of some kind. And then you have live bands that come on and guest star on there. It's a cool way for people to learn about new bands, especially in the 90s, when learning about new bands really only happened if you heard about it from a friend, decided to buy the record, or heard it on the radio or maybe a college radio station. So this was kind of an exciting way to learn about new bands. The episode being the series premieres features the first usage of the theme song by pop punk band Nerf Herder. Perry Grip, the band's songwriter, guitarist, and admitted fan of the show, explained that the band created the theme song after Fancy Pants Hollywood, quote unquote, failed to write a theme song that the producers approved. Eventually, the producers asked a bunch of small local bands who they could pay very little money to come up with some ideas, and they liked our idea and they used it. Several songs by the band Sprung Monkey play during the episode, but when Buffy is deciding what to wear, the song Saturated is playing faintly in the background. At the Bronze, the band plays their songs Believe, Swirl, and Things Are Changing. And all of the songs featured in the episode can be found on their 1995 album Swirl. The score for the episode, as well as the first season entries, were created by Walter Murphy. Now, that scoring goes on to a man named Christopher Golden, I believe. And he ends up doing the scoring for the majority of the seasons. He's really known as like the person who does the scoring for this series. Walter Murphy is not a name that's tied with it after this point. So Sprung Monkey is the band that's featured at the Bronze when they go to the Bronze. I did own any and every album attached to the show. So the Sprung Monkey, I don't believe, is on the original. Let me check. I don't believe it's on the original album track list, but there are some really great songs that are. Buffy album. Okay. There are several albums. The first one being one of my absolute favorites. Okay, so Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the album. There are several. The album it's the first one that was released. It includes a number of songs, but I don't believe that band is on it. No. As the show goes on, I'm sorry. The person to do Christopher Golden is a writer. Christoph Beck does the scoring. I'm so sorry. Christoph Beck does the scoring. Okay, the track listing for the original album is 1, Buffy the Vampire Slayer theme song by Nerf Herder. 2, Teenage FBI, such a strong follow-up song, by Guided by Voices. 3, Temptation Waits by Garbage. 4, Strong by Velvet Chain. 5, I Quit by Hepburn. 6, Over My Head by First Slide. 7, Lucky by Biff Naked. If you grew up in this time, this is very nostalgic to hear these names. 8, Keep Myself Awake by Black Lab. 9, Virgin State of Mind by Kay's Choice, a personal favorite of mine. 10, Already Bet You by Superfine. 11, The Devil You Know by Face to Face. 12, Nothing But You by Kim Farron. It Doesn't Matter is 13 by Alison Krauss and Union Station, which is also really great. 14 is Wild Horses, a cover by the Sundays, another one of my favorites on this album. 15, Pain, Slayer Mix by 4-Star Mary. 16, Charge by Splendid. 17, Transylvanian Concubine by Rasputina, which is another one of my absolute favorites on the track. And then to close it out is Close Your Eyes by Christoph Beck. It's Buffy and Angel's like love song. You're going to see Garbage in September? They put on a good show. I saw them, it's been like 10 years. I saw them like 10 years ago. But they do put on a great show. So have fun. That's exciting. All right. So when it comes to casting and filming, Whedon explained that several of the characters that appeared in the series were based on real life individuals. Cordelia, for instance, was modeled after a girl with whom Whedon's wife attended high school. Xander was based on Whedon himself. Whedon hoped to include actor Eric Balfour in the title credits to shock viewers. I'm going to stop there. It's a spoiler for episode 2. We'll move on. However, Whedon's wish was granted in the season 6 episode Seeing Red with the character Tara McClay, played by Amber Benson. Brian Thompson, who plays the vampire Luke, returns to the series in season 2 as a different character, the judge in Surprise and Innocence. In the original non-broadcast pilot, Willow was portrayed by Riff Regan. So there you go. That's who the actress was. However, network executives requested that Reagan be replaced. Willow's character demanded that she be shy and unsure of herself, and the casting department encountered some difficulty finding actresses who could portray this effectively and still be likable. After 7 auditions, Allison Hannigan was eventually chosen for the role. She was chosen for being able to spin the character's lines with a self-effacing optimism. She stated, "I don't want to do Willow as someone who's feeling sorry for herself, especially in the first season. She couldn't talk to guys and nobody liked her. I was like, I don't want to play someone who's down on herself. Whedon conceived the character as introverted, saying, I wanted Willow to have that kind of insanely colorful interior life that truly shy people have. And Allison has that. Definitely has a loopiness I found creeping into the way Willow talked, which was great. And to an extent, all the actors conform to the way I read the character, but it really stands out in Willow's case. Nicholas Brendan, who was recently been fired from his had recently been fired from his job as a waiter and was struggling financially, was attracted to the pilot script for Buffy because of how much he hated high school. Brendan recognized that Xander was based on Joss Whedon when he attended high school, accounting for why Xander gets all the good lines. Charisma Carpenter had originally planned to read for the role of Buffy, but was late to her audition and instead tried out for Cordelia. Although she only had 15 minutes to prepare for the character, the producers were really responsive to Carpenter's audition, and she left feeling confident that she had got the part. After Carpenter's audition, Geller, who had been offered the role of Cordelia before Carpenter, was asked to come back and audition for the part of Buffy. Bianca Lawson originally won the role of Cordelia Chase, but turned it down due to other contractual obligations, which I could see Bianca Lawson playing that part. I could see that. I could see that. Bianca Lawson was on Saved by the Bell, the New Class, Pretty Little Liars, Sister Sister, Steve Harvey Show, Dawson's Creek, Secret Life of an American Teenager, Vampire Diaries, Teen Wolf, which is a East End. So again, an actress known for a lot of different recurring roles, especially television wise. Lawson later, you'll see her on the show. I'm not going to tell you who she is. You'll see it. Cordelia was originally intended to serve as a dramatic foil to Buffy and to represent the characteristics of the less mature and shallower Buffy portrayed in the original film. Bianca as Buffy would have been really good, but as Cordelia would have been really good, but it's okay because we love her character later, so it's fine. Okay. Julie Benz, who played Darla, originally auditioned for the role of Buffy. Dawson's Creek has very hateable characters. I don't blame you, Durga. I do not blame you. However, Vince was later offered the minor role of Darla in the pilot episode. Although the character, originally an unnamed minor vampire, was supposed to... I'm going to stop there also because we don't need to know all that. It's okay. You'll learn it eventually. Veteran character actor Mark Metcalf appeared in heavy prosthetic makeup for the role of the Master, belying his iconic performance in the film National Lampoon's Animal House as Douglas C. Niedermeyer. In 2011, Metcalf recognized his role on Buffy as one of his favorites. Many actors auditioned for the part, but Whedon felt Metcalf played it with more complexity, bringing a sly and kind of urbane sensitivity and a charm to the villainy of the character. Christine Sutherland was cast as Buffy's mother, Joyce. Sutherland, who disliked the horror genre, was not looking for acting jobs when her agent called her with the opportunity to play Joyce. She auditioned the same day as David Boreanaz and was impressed with how naturally she felt at ease with the material in the scripts. Bob Flutie, Sunnydale's high school principal, was originally played by Stephen Tobolowsky in the unaired pilot, but Ken Lerner was cast as Flutie in the broadcast version. Certain scenes, such as an argument between Giles and Buffy in the library and Buffy's first meeting with Angel, were reshot 8 months after the first episode was recorded, with both Whedon and Geller feeling that Buffy was too angry in the original takes. Whedon subsequently teased Geller that they were going to reshoot the scene a third time. The high school used for external and some internal scenes in the series is Torrance High, which is the same high school used for scenes in Beverly Hills 90210, which is why it's like very recognizable. It was used a lot in the 90s. All right. So vampire effects. I want to talk about this because it's kind of an exciting thing. Joss Whedon created the idea of vamp faces, which was to have vampires' human features distort to become more demonic. So he wanted normal high school students that the other characters could interact with normally, only to have them turn out to be vampires, therefore creating a sense of paranoia. Like you just don't know who you can trust. The vampires originally appeared very white-faced, quote unquote, very creepy, very ghoulish, and this was toned down in later episodes as the makeup was really time consuming. So you can see that shot when like Darla, when she says like, you're not going anywhere until we feed. And like the camera like turns to her really quick. That was like it was like very white cast, very intense. So they really dial that back later. So if that was like overwhelming to you, don't worry. It's much different in later episodes. Durga, my only question was always, how is Angel and Buffy's relationship okay? Not only does he look much older, but he is so much older. The great value, sir. I take issue. I take issue with that. I was a firm Angel and Buffy stan a young person. I have big problems with it now. I have big problems with it now. He is in his 20s. Like canonically, he's in his 20s. At the time, I can't spoil anything. I can't spoil anything. We're just gonna move on. I don't want to say it. I don't want to say it. We'll say it next episode. We'll say it next episode. Um, okay. So reception of the show. Again, this aired on March 10th, 1997 on WB. Okay, so on the original airing of this episode, the WB provided a teaser advertisement briefing the history of past Slayers. It revealed horrific events in towns that were halted when a particular woman arrived. This promotional teaser does not appear in syndication or on DVD. Welcome to the Hellmouth earned a Nielsen rating of 3.4, meaning that roughly 3.4% of all television equipment households were tuned into that episode. It was the 100th most watched episode of television that aired during the week ending in March 16th. But it received positive reviews from critics. Okay, so, and I will say, I have never seen the brief history of Slayers advert. It could be on YouTube. I've never looked it up. So I don't know. We could look and see if it's there. Vox ranked it at 111 of all 144 episodes of their every episode ranked from best to worst list to mark the 20th anniversary of the show, which happened in 2017. Writing that it has to lay the groundwork for Buffy's winding, convoluted mythology and introduce its main cast, and it more or less manages. It's a little awkward here and there, but mostly just fun. And the opening scene with Darla playing a meek little schoolgirl before she turns on her prey shows you exactly how funny and scary and subversive Buffy will turn out to be. Noel Murray of the AV Club wrote that the episode was a good introduction to the show, establishing the characters and the premise quickly and cleanly before ending on a cliffhanger. Murray, however, did note that it contained a dialogue that sounded more faux clever than actually clever. It's kind of like, it's a criticism people often have of Whedon. And that there was quote unquote an overall flatness to the action horror scenes that would continue until the second season. John Levesque, writing for the Seattle Post Intelligencer, called the fledgling series witty, intelligent, and thoroughly entertaining, and dubbed it the best thing I've seen on the WB. He praised the acting of Sarah Michelle Gellar, noting that she plays Buffy to perfection. Phil Clore of the Atlanta Journal and the Atlanta Constitution called the show a kicky little mix of camp comedy, high school hijinks, and monsters, and likened his plot to the Fox sci-fi series The X-Files and the Nickelodeon horror-themed anthology series Are You Afraid of the Dark? He ultimately gave the episode a B. Rolling Stone ranked Welcome to the Hellmouth at 112 on their every episode ranked from worst to best list, writing that the opening with Darla in a deserted high school perfectly subverts expectations and in doing so sets the tone for the next 7 seasons. First episodes often get bogged down in establishing lore, and while Welcome to the Hellmouth is no exception, the snappy dialogue and the charm of our core protagonists mean it doesn't really matter. It by no means is the best episode, but it's special for what it began. Welcome to the Hellmouth was ranked number 51 on Pace Magazine's every episode ranked list, which I cannot believe that they are doing like so many of these every episode ranked lists. Nikki Stafford, in her book Bite Me, called the first episode excellent and complimented the strengths of the main cast as well as the show's unique approach. She contrasted it with the earlier movie, noting that the movie version was like Clueless, but nearly the end suddenly tried to be a serious film. Television show carries comedy, action, and drama simultaneously and features a far superior ensemble cast. And so that's really it, friends. That is really it about this first episode. I'm gonna look up the little every Slayer thing. Let's see if we can find it. Let's see. Every Slayer. Buffy Vampire Slayer WB history. Okay. I don't know. I'm typing in a lot of things. We'll see if we got it. History of the Slayer. Okay, we've got it. It looks like it's really bad quality. Okay. So I'm gonna air. Okay, there's two different versions. One is only a minute, one is 6 minutes. Well, how long is this one? This one's only okay, this one's a minute 53. We're gonna go with this one. Okay. All right, hold on 1 second, friends. Let me get this pulled up. Let me get the audio going. Okay, and we will watch this together and just see. Okay. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do this because I am playing around with them. Here we go. We'll increase that size and
of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The following 2-hour world premiere is rated TV PG and contains action scenes which may be too intense for younger viewers.
Old school WB promoing too. This is the frog. Okay, WB.
Virginia, 1866. The frequent disappearance of local Civil War widows shocked an already grieving community.
All right.
These events ended when Lucy Hanover arrived in town.
The sound is horrible.
Chicago, May 1927. 41 bodies were found near Union Station. Shortly after the arrival of this young woman, the mysterious murders stopped. Now, in 1997, it's starting all over again.
I know the nostalgia.
Change is happening in Sunnydale.
He's coming back.
A force so powerful, so menacing.
Standing in the mouth of hell.
Yeah.
It's about to open.
That only one person in all the world dares to challenge it.
She tries to stop you.
They're showing clips from both the first two episodes, obviously.
This is a matter of life and death.
The chosen one.
You are the Slayer. Lives depend upon you.
Behind me!
For each generation, there is only one Slayer. Anthony Storehead, Allison Hannigan, Nicholas Brendan, and Emmy Award winner Sarah Michelle Gellar.
We don't find her. There's going to be one more dead body in the morning.
The moment is near.
Oh, get out!
You are about to meet the Slayer.
Okay.
Now, the series premiere of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Love that. All right. I love that my own live was going to play next. That's crazy. Anyway, okay, so that really wraps up this first episode. I just kind of wanted to get some of the like lore and details out of the way, and we can take it episode by episode after this. Now, again, Slay by Slay will take a break until after Found is completed, and so we will be into May when that happens. So probably end of May, early June. I've got some stuff going on. I've got a convention at the end of May to head to in Peachtree City, Georgia. If you're interested, if you're in that area and you want to see me, I will be working press at a convention. Most years I attend several conventions. This year is a little bit less. I didn't plan on a ton because I was pregnant, and so I wasn't planning on really traveling a lot or going to New York Comic Con because that lined up with like kind of where my projected due date was. So I wasn't planning on booking a bunch of conventions this year. So I don't know if there'll be more in store. I've done Brooklyn Comic Con before. I've done Spookala down in Florida. So we'll just have to see what happens. I'll let you guys know if I do end up showing up anywhere else. I'm always happy to meet people and meet up and grab a coffee or a drink or dinner or whatever, and hang out and see you guys. But anyway, I'm going to head out. I have family in town right now. And so I just took a brief break to come do this because I promised I would. And I was really, really, really excited about it. I love you guys so much. Please make sure that you like this video, subscribe if you're interested in this kind of thing. But I love you guys, and I'm so thankful that you're here. Durga, thanks for being my ride or die, girl. You really are. You really, really are. Love you. Love you. Anyway, yeah, give this a like. I love you guys. I will see you next week for another episode of Finding Found. We'll be back to Found coverage, and that will be at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Friday. Next week, May something. May 2nd. May 2nd. And yeah, you guys have a good night. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next week, Friday. Love you so much.